Welcome to the Evolving Martial Artist. It's an idea I've had that I'm going to share with a friend of mine who is Greg. Greg Lynham from Somerset Applied Karate and Conversations on Karate. That podcast you all love. Morning, man.
Morning.
You're right.
How are we doing?
Yeah, I'm good. So listen, we've been chatting off air for quite a while about this kind of evolving journey of a martial artist, right? And there are so many sections to it. And I thought today, let's get into something that sits right at the heart of a lot of karate students' training world, which is kata. Right? Mm-hmm. We'll, as we go on, we could do more of these, but as we go on, let's talk about kata and how. I mean, ultimately, it's a teaching aid, right? And I just want to get into a little bit how it's changed for you. Has kata changed for you? Its use, what you do with it, if you bother to do anything with it. What are your thoughts on that now?
For me, it's changed massively.
Okay.
Massively.
In
both directions. So it used to be, like most karate people, it was just a thing you did.
Almost the be all and end all, wasn't it?
Almost. Yeah. It was a thing you did to look good and get your next belt. That was it. And then I started looking into the applications.
Yeah.
And then that became the focus. And then now it's kind of gone full circle. And it's almost like we've said before, a meditative thing.
Yeah.
Just a relaxing cool down that I like to do at the end of class. I don't focus too much on application anymore. It's still there, but it's not the main focus now.
What have you replaced then? So your applications, so the old bunkai stuff, what do you do instead of that then, rather than standing still and someone punched to A and you block to B? What do you now do instead?
We fight.
Oh, what a strange idea.
I know.
Crazy.
You learn to fight by fighting. Mad, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay. So it's kind of, shown the way, been like a template, because that's how I see kata, as like a teaching aid, which shows a template, but ultimately ends up at the game, doesn't it? Kind of fighting, strangely enough.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then there's definitely points in kata where you go, if you're struggling with this, here's a move. So last night, for example, we were working triangles. And a couple of people were struggling with getting their legs right, so hooking the other leg over the foot behind the knee. And I said, it's like this position we have in exactly, just like that. Yeah,
a lot of people can't get that.
Yes,
you got to cut the angle, right?
Yeah. And I said, so it's like the foot position we have in kata gankaku, or other people call it chinto, where you stand on one leg and you tuck the foot behind the knee.
Oh, yeah. Behind. Yes, that's a really good, that's a great observation. We don't do kata, but I've seen.
No.
Actually, yeah.
And I said, it's exactly like that. Yeah. And then immediately I was like, oh, yeah, okay.
that Greg, is a really interesting and good use of kata because it's easy to get away from what I believe kata was, which is a teaching training aid, one of many. And in that regard, you could use it for 10 reps until even the lowest common denominator student, the lowest standard, will get that in 10 reps. So we don't need then 6 months of that kata, right? There it is, 10 moves, got it, reapply.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I find that as well, actually. I find myself in positions, mostly grappling positions, where I freeze something and go, framing, hip, shoulder, whatever, I don't know, whatever katas there are with these, but framing or body structure. And then it's a useful tool, reference point, really. Just one of many tools. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
You spoke about it being a nice cool down and meditative sort of stuff. What do you do with that? How do you find that?
So we normally finish every session. Now we kind of do 15 minutes of live sparring, and then we finish with kind of 10-15 minutes of kata, where we just, someone in the group will just say, pick a kata, or if there's something that we think everyone needs to work on, then we'll pick one for them, and then we just run through it, just at a really slow pace.
Nice.
And it just kind of gives everyone, and I try and get people to think like, if you're moving through these positions and there's something you recognize from the sparring, then just keep that in mind.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Because
it
it's
is
nice to have
quite nice
them.
for a group unity thing as well. I mean,
Oh,
bearing in mind
absolutely.
that
Yeah.
kata has to be understood culturally. It's from a culture, Japanese culture, and that kind of Far East culture, which is based around rhythm, symbol, and structure.
Yes.
So, and
Yeah.
that's absolutely fine to use that as a group unification. That is also, I mean, you could do that, sit and have tea, or you might as well keep it karate-esque and just do that. We do that quite a lot. We'll do that, just finish with it, and then it becomes a different thing then. So that's my point about this evolving martial arts journey, is that the teaching aids and the training aids change for us. I'm very similar to you. My kata now, I would say, is very yogic, very yoga-esque now. What am I, coming up to 50? End of the year, I'm 50. So now I'm not that interested in or I'm not interested at all in the bunkai and the meaning of it, or the so-called meaning of it. But I am interested in the full range of motion, because I'm aware that some joints at times are a bit sorer than other times. And so when I do yoga, right? So when I do the sun salutation, I often think this is like kata. And when I do kata, if I freeze it and elongate it and extend it, I go, this is like yoga. So I do find now my kata is, well, as I've already said, kind of yoga-esque. And I think I've known that for a long time. That's not rocket science, but it took me a long time to give myself permission to bastardize the kata and go, I'm happy for it to be yoga. You know what I mean? Was that an issue for you?
Yeah, because you're constantly told, aren't you? Like, oh, you mustn't change this. You mustn't. This is super important. Don't change it. Don't do anything with it. Almost as if like one of the old masters is gonna crawl out the ground and strangle you for doing it.
Yeah. That's a hangover from that kind of hierarchical training of in the so-called traditional arts. Yeah, interesting. And because of that, so when I transitioned karate to BJJ, or kind of MMA, mixing it all up, I fell out of love with kata because I felt it was bullshit. Once you start applying stuff, right? Once you start fighting, you realize that's a teaching aid, and I'm not going to hang my hat on that. However, now I've got a new appreciation for it, for me, as a range of motion yoga thing. I don't do it at all with the view of what I was told it was for, but I do love it again, but with a completely different mindset to it. So I've kind of come full circle with a very different understanding and appreciation and use of it. I now use kata to serve me, not the other way around.
Yeah. Well, who else is it going to serve, right? It's got to serve you.
Yeah.
Can't serve anyone else.
Yeah.
And that's the problem with it. It doesn't. In most ways, it doesn't. It serves a grading criteria.
Yes.
Which, let me ask you. So when you do kata now, do you still do the very fixed posture position? So like move 1, boom, stop. Move 2, boom, stop. Because I find I can't do kata like that very much anymore, because it just stops the flow of everything. And when you're fighting, you never stop.
Yeah, that's a good question. It depends on what I'm working on. So for example, if I'm looking for a very deep held like warrior pose stretch, right? I will hit and hold that for like 15 seconds. So yes, in that regard. If I'm looking for a more continuous sun salutation thing, which is a flow, then I'll just keep going. If I'm in a particularly kind of antsy mood, which I feel I am this morning for some reason, then I will then slow it right down and just keep going until I've kind of worked that out of me. But that's what I mean. So the kata then isn't one thing that we now do. It becomes something that you wake up in this mood or with this need, and then you fix it. So yeah, it changes. There will be some times when I've hurt my shoulders or back, and I'll just hit and hold something and pull right back, just for a range of motion thing. It does depend on what I'm up to. But I agree. The flow. If I'm just going through flow, I just flow, shorten, fight, do whatever. Is that what you find you're doing then?
100%. I tend to do my kata more Tai Chi-esque than anything else at the moment.
Yeah.
Just no kind of stop between movements and just keep going.
Yeah. There are some as well that I use to warm up for fights. I mean, when you go to a BJJ tournament, you don't want to be the you don't want to be the karate guy warming up.
Don't do that in front of everyone.
So that's always done in a car park or somewhere completely where no other human being is watching. You can imagine, you can just picture that, can't you?
Yes.
But there are certain kata which will get me in certain moods. I'll use the softer kind of sanshins and tensho to calm if I find myself arrived at the match just more nervous than usual. Or if sometimes when you pitch up a bit sleepy, for whatever reason, you can't be asked to fight. That's usually actually a sign of nerves. But then I'll use one that really hypes me up. So it does have that effect. I can use it. I remember through my shiatsu days, my instructor saying, the body work affects the mind and the mind affects the body work. It depends what someone's leading with. And I will now use kata for that, but purely as a kind of a mental preparation. And I'll pick one specifically for those sort of, attitudes, really.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. We do have kata that we lean to for things like that, don't we?
Yeah.
You said for relaxing, yours is sanchin or tensho.
Yeah. I won't do a very hard sanchin because it would just be about the breathing. But I kind of like kind of the geksais. They're good for getting in the groove. If I want to fight, by the end of those, I'm ready to give something a good hiding. You know what I mean? And of course, the Seiyunshin stuff, it's got a lot of dragon pulls, which really help get into that kind of early grappling type stuff. So yeah, those. But some are guaranteed to just get me into fight mode, for sure.
Yeah.
I guess by us talking about it and being open about how our journey's changed and how our use of the tools change, maybe other people listening will go, oh, yeah, actually, yeah, maybe I don't have to fully chuck out kata. Maybe I can just put it, I can use it for my needs. And then we look at it from another perspective. I think we're just thinking for ourselves about our karate rather than what we were told by our instructors, who probably were as blind as the blind that were leading them anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it was that Japanese hierarchical system, wasn't it? You just do what you're told. You don't, you don't question it.
Yeah.
You've spent a lot of time in Japan though, haven't you?
Yeah. So
is that very much the culture?
It was. It's not now because it's 2022. Well, like all things, right? And strangely, there aren't samurai walking around the streets with swords.
Are they not?
No, they've stopped that.
You've ruined the image of Japan.
I know. But it's funny how we do we would laugh at that if people came over to us and go, oh, I didn't see a single person in a bowler hat in London, strangely. But you'll get people coming expecting to see that sort of thing. And of course, there is that kind of structure, and that is in their history, but less and less and less. And what you often find, certainly when I went to the Jundakan, which is where Higoni used to be, I used to do the Goju-Ryu one.
Yeah.
Just pitch up after work. I was expecting this great kind of, enlightened karate experience. And it was people coming from work, training, going back home. Some staying a bit longer because they didn't want to go home yet. It is like ordinary life.
Yeah.
And within
just nip to the gym.
Yeah, it exactly was that. And so in some ways it burst that whole illusion. And that was both good and bad, because as I've used that line a million times, the magic is that there isn't any magic.
Yeah.
And that's kind of, okay, there's no Smoky Mountain where it's a hidden technique. And now you can start to go, right, okay. So you go there thinking, I'm at the birthplace of karate and I'm waiting for, no, there's no magic out there. Just it's the same. Cultural context is important. You understand the use of ritual and symbology and all that sort of stuff, but that's a completely different thing. But ultimately you pitch up, train, try and get good. The most people who made it most mystical were the Western visitors. They're the one who wanted to, they wanted to add their little bit of, I'm here in Japan training. I'm going to get myself a karma. They'd be the ones who are doing all that. And the Japanese are like, really, I'm only here because I don't want to go home yet because my wife gets on my nerves or whatever it may be. Certainly the Japan of old is quite a following system, right?
Yes.
Well, in the West, we're taught that you're moving forward if you're questioning, not rudely, but like examining and questioning and thinking. And that's where the difference is. That's why it's very difficult for kata to be translated. You know what I mean? And which is why I think, there probably is a thing as Japanese and Western karate. That, because
100%.
you can't take into account you have to take into account the cultural differences.
Yeah. That's the thing, isn't it? At what point do we start calling what we do, British karate?
That's absolutely right. Absolutely, like BJJ, Brazilian.
Exactly. Yeah.
No, that's a really good point. It is the reason why I called my school Jardine Karate. I purposely stuck away from any kind of Oriental names.
Yeah.
Because I was like, this is one bloke's interpretation, for
exactly
right or wrong, not suggesting in any way that it's any good, but that's how I see it. If you want to train with me through the way I see it, here's your place. If you don't, there are a million other dojos out there. And that's why, and that was an active choice. Karate, because I've kind of been around it a bit. Jardine is my surname. Woohoo. And we stay away from any links to Misty Mountain, Moving Planet, nothing, none of that.
Yeah, the links to like lineage and stuff, people fall back on that a lot, don't they?
The lineage of my school is as old as me.
Well, there you go. Yeah.
And I make no bones about that, because I'm like, that's it. There's no lie here. It is my translation that you either like or you don't like. It can only have come through my filter. So I have no lineage. I am the lineage.
Yeah. Which makes sense.
The ancient art of JK.
In 200 years, there'll be murals of you.
Yeah. But all joking aside, it is. I did make an active choice to go, no, is there a translation? Is there a name? Can we do Kaiser? No, because you're not. You're a British bloke who's trying to translate an Eastern art.
And it's the focus of, what's the focus of your karate anyway? It's not the same focus as someone 200 years ago. They're different things.
Yeah, completely different things. Completely different places, completely different things. But saying that, I do find, again, which kind of brings us back to what we chatted about today, back to the kata, is that there was a point where I completely ditched it. Completely. Just like, not a teaching, not at all that I need. And then have latterly come round, but as I say, completely used in my terms now for yoga, range of motion. If I'm going to do strength and conditioning, which, I suggest most people do a little bit of strength and conditioning, if it can look a bit karate shaped or martial arts shaped, well, that's better, right? Because it kills two birds with one stone. If you're going to do S&C, well, at least keep something that looks like, fine, then it's good for that. And now we've got but then it's just a training tool, teaching aid.
Yeah. See, this is what I used to be not against, because I did kata competition when I was a kid. But like, I used to kind of be like, why are you doing kata like this? It's not for that. It's for the application, blah, blah, blah. And now I really admire the kata competitors, because they don't have any confusion about what their kata's for. It's just, there's a goal, or I want to win a gold. How am I going to do that? I'm going to do this. There's no, confusion about what they're doing.
Yeah, I agree.
They have a goal, and they have a path to get to that goal, and their path is to make their kata.
Right. They're not getting hung up in anything else.
No.
Yeah. That's a really good point. That's a really good point. And it's being confident in, I'm choosing it for this. I don't care who else is choosing it. And I'm going to do this to the level that I've set. Yeah, absolutely. And you can't look at kata competition and not be impressed.
Oh, no,
from an aesthetic point of view.
Yeah,
and that's
absolutely.
why I'm the same as you. Like, even when I watch points competitions, I'm not unimpressed. Points fighters as athletes, outstanding. I don't then add to it, but that wouldn't work in the real. I don't even know what the real world is, but in the real world, that's not it. That's not what we're doing. That is their training for that thing, and they're very, very, very good at that thing. That's fine, right? Horses for courses.
Yeah.
All right. So let's leave it at that. So kata then is part of the Evolving Martial Artist. We have both found that we use it very differently now for our for our needs. Kind of fell out of love with it, fell back in love with it, but for different reasons. And anyone who's listening, not that you certainly not you need our permission, but the whole point of this is that I think it's okay. I think it's fine. Do what you want with the teaching aids. If they serve you, martial arts should serve you, not the other way around. Anything else you want to add, man?
No, I just think as much as Kata's changed for me over the last few years, it may change again.
That's a really
I may go back and be like, actually, I found another use for it now. So,
yeah. All right, man. That's good. Okay, so let's leave it at
awesome.
that. I think that's good. A little just wanted to get into that. We will come back and talk about other aspects of the evolving martial artist. Maybe we'll look at
I think that'd be good.
Sparring. But I think for now, all good. Right, you guys listening, we'll put this out. Let us know what you think in the comments below. If you agree, if you don't agree. Ultimately, the whole purpose of this is to let you know your martial arts is your journey. It's your journey. Do what you want with it. I believe, me and Greg believe, I think it's fair to say that martial arts should serve us, not necessarily the other way around. All right, until next time, see you again.